I'm Aryeh along with Rachel Galligan, and welcome to the Winsidr Show where it's all about the W. It's Monday in the W, and you know there's an action-packed week and weekend, so we got to dive in, have some coffee, and discuss all the hot and trending news. Our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content over at winsidr.com. That's winsidr.com. Looking for a fun new way to enjoy the W? Join Winsidr on Playback. Our watch parties are the bomb. Use the link playback.com. Playback.tv/Winsidr. That's playback.tv/Winsidr. And hey, you never know when we're going to do a merch giveaway. We're back. It's the Winsidr Show. I'm Aryeh Schwartz along with my co-host Rachel Galligan. And let's just dive right in. It's Monday morning. We're exhausted from a busy week. Where do we want to start this week, Rachel? Because I feel like the Liberty Mystics is like so fresh in my head because it was yesterday.
Right.
I kind of want to start there because I just have so many issues and questions. Like, here's my thing. With the Bree Jones injury, like...
I guess we're starting there. Let's go.
We're starting there. With the Bree Jones injury, like, the door is wide open. And I'm not saying that, like, you know, Connecticut doesn't have a shot anymore. But for teams like the Mystics, for teams like the Wings, you have to look at that and kind of get a jolt. You kind of have to get a little bit more excited and say, okay, that makes our positioning for the long-term success, and by long-term I mean in this season, that makes our chances, our opportunity that much better. Let's take advantage. And what do we see from the Mystics going up against the Liberty, a team that they've already shown that they can dominate, a team that we know has a huge issue, to say it nicely, when it comes to defending against guards. And the Mystics have the ability with an Ariel Atkins, with a Natasha Cloud, to really take advantage of that weakness. And I think the Aces also, it's a reason why I'm not that high on New York, even though they've been playing great recently. But so I just think, like, when I'm looking at the Mystics, I'm getting so underwhelmed, so disappointed. Each game I watch, I just am more and more frustrated with the situation going on there. I mean, do we want to get detailed about that game? Because they blew a 17-point lead.
Yeah, I mean, this is like what? Like the fourth or fifth massive lead that's been blown? Not by them. I'm just talking like in the course of this
Fifth,
season. We've seen
yeah,
wild
fifth game that the team who was down by 15 made a comeback
Well,
in
and
this season.
it blows my mind because this should be a poised Mystics team, veteran Mystics team that knows how to play with a lead. Now, you can't sit there and expect, okay, we're just going to rout New York and they're just going to roll over and we're just going to win by 30. You knew at some point they were going to make a run, you know, and you got into that third quarter. Actually, it was kind of Washington had a big first quarter. New York came out, won the second quarter, barely won the third quarter. I mean, so they just slowly, through the course of the game, chipped into this lead. It wasn't like it happened, they went on like a 17-0 run. They slowly, like basically Washington came out hot, and it just kind of slowly dwindled away. And that's the thing that I don't understand about this team sometimes. Is just like, I think obviously Shakira Austin getting hurt rattled that team, rattles the interior, it rattles, you know, your rotations and paint presence and rim protection, those types of things. We hope she's okay. But yeah, I mean, they were getting to the bucket at will against the Liberty. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, you know, it's like the seas were parting. And I mean, I don't know. I feel like there should have been, first, there were some tough turnovers down the stretch. And then I'm pretty sure, you know, I'm not sure. I mean, that
horribly missed free throws. Like you had multiple opportunities to seal the game.
You could look at a few, you know, that's one thing every coach will say, like, okay, let's blame this last play call. You know, Hines Allen had a look and slams it off the backboard. I mean, like, what was that? But it was good executed play. You know, you've got the ball 2 feet in the paint right next to the rim. I mean, that's the look you want to get. I don't know if that's who I would be going to in that scenario, but just like looking at like the fourth quarter in particular, I mean, and then especially overtime. I mean, the fourth quarter, they just felt like they lost a step. They had some really, really, really timely, tough turnovers. How many turnovers is a team? That only 13 as a team, which honestly is not. That's pretty good. But they were just like shoot yourself in the foot type turnovers down the stretch that were just so bad. But yeah, I mean, what did you see down the stretch? I mean, I watched it yesterday in real time. You watched it today. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I watched it last night after you're
Oh,
like,
you
you need
did.
to watch this. I was following it on, I was driving, so I was following it on my phone, which I shouldn't have been doing. I know, shame on me. Well, the things that kind of stood out was one, they kept Stewie 4 for 17 and 0 for 5 from three.
I know.
That is
You've got to win that
huge.
game.
Jonquel Jones doesn't score a single point, goes 0 for 3. Yeah, she gets 10 rebounds. Who cares? You know what I mean? Like four
You tell me
turnovers.
that there's a game where the Liberty between Jonquel Jones, Brenna Stewart end up going 4 for 20. I like those odds. Not that Jonquel Jones has set the world on fire this
Or you add Sloot to that, and they went 9 for 32.
It's crazy. I mean, completely credit to the Liberty for staying the course and just honestly just making plays down the stretch because when you look at the box score, blows my mind. I mean, everything from this box score screams that Washington should have won that game. New York shot just 37%.
The
Washington,
only thing is rebounding. I mean, they got their butt handed to them on the
that's the
boards,
biggest thing.
29 to 45. And it was the opportunities of 14 offensive rebounds. That's just huge.
But,
Jonquel Jones, yes, struggled, but 4 offensive rebounds is so big. What I saw, honestly, was a team that was shook,
well,
a
and free
team.
throws. Free throws. New
Oh
York
yeah,
about
well,
twice as
oh my God. Yeah. Well, look, Washington, the best free throw shooting team in the league, went 13 for 18, which isn't like, look, 72% as a team isn't horrible, but you leave those 5 points. I'm pretty sure all 5 of those, or at least 4 of them, came in the last minute of play in the regular game. Like, I think it was very clear once we went to overtime that Washington was going to lose it because they had the lead the whole game. And it's just like, as history has taught us, when a team struggles, they have opportunities to close out the game with a minute. I mean, how many stoppage of plays was it that they had the ball, had a 2 point lead or more with a minute left? And like, when you have that many opportunities to just run down the clock, make one basket, close out this game, make one defensive stop, like, I'm sorry, like, great. I'm not trying to take away from New York. They chipped away, like you said. They stayed the course. They stayed focused. But like, Washington lost that game. Like, there's no way about it in my mind.
well, and I think again, like rebounding numbers, you have Austin in there, that makes a huge difference. Like who's down there when she goes out, trying to help that situation, that hurt quite a bit. And I mean, the free throw numbers, that is a huge glaring number. I mean, you look at Washington and you really think like I don't know. I can't figure this team out to save my life. I genuinely cannot
Well,
figure this team out to.
we can go in so many different
Well,
angles. Is
and
it Eric?
New
Is it the
York,
team? Is it
as,
the players?
as I was saying from the start, New York is their backcourt and their ability to guard, especially off the dribble, is like the parting of the seas. I mean, Washington had 36 paint points. Just their ability. That wasn't just like throwing it down to Deladon, going to work on the block. That was like literally getting it to the rim and finishing at the basket. Atkins was doing a great job at that. I don't know. I keep going back and forth because how I've been saying, oh, you don't know what team is going to show up. You don't know how they're going to look. I just feel like Washington down the stretch in crunch time really struggles. That's
They haven't been showing up, like,
yeah,
point blank.
yeah,
All right, too much about this team, and we could go
yeah.
on for a while about that.
Good win for the
I'm over
Liberty
it.
though. Good win for. I mean, not a pretty game, but you find a way, and that's what they did. So
Yeah, no, yeah. I no two ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was just fresh in my mind. I also think that, like, Stewie got some favorable calls in the end. Like, that time where she literally extended her arm, shoved Atkins off on the baseline, or not on the baseline, on the sidelines, right before she gets the take. That, I think it was right before she finishes the game with that game winner. But Atkins gets called on a play where I either let them play or I call that offensively. Like, she just shoved Atkins to the floor, and then they called it on
Well,
Atkins, and I don't get that.
let's not forget the fact it was literally it was close to a 3-hour game. 50 fouls called, which is not a record by any means, but I was sitting there and I'm like, damn, am I even going to get a chance to watch Dallas and LA because this game is taking forever. There was
Well,
so
speaking of the Wings,
much
that's a
happening.
perfect segue.
Okay, good
The
segue.
Dallas Wings, I feel like, have kind of lost their footing, as it were.
Yes.
They just they early on in the season they were riding high on the new coach vibe. Satu has kind of tapered out just a little bit, come back to reality just a little bit. We can talk about Enrique when we get to the whole All-Star voting, but for me, it's just like Dallas was a team that they had finally gained my confidence that in those games, if they're winning or losing by 6 points, for the majority of the game, I have the confidence that they were going to win it. I'm slowly losing that confidence. It took me a while to build that up. So I feel very bamboozled. I don't know what they're doing, but no, I mean, like LA, an interesting team, really being buoyed by Neka Gumake's amazing performance. Just out of and the thing is like every year we talk about this since the beginning of the Derek Fisher era, Rachel, it's been like NECA's playing amazing, the rest of the team is crap. And she's really carrying this team, and like if they had a better record, she'd be in the MVP conversation, but she's not because they don't have a better record. They're 500.
I gotta say, I mean, back to Dallas. It's so they've won one of their last six, which is shocking to me. Now, granted, three of those were from LA, so I think I get you kind of like talking about both teams here. I'm really surprised. I am genuinely very surprised that LA swept Dallas during this period of time. Didn't expect that to happen, especially the game on Sunday yesterday. I really, really felt like Dallas would find a way. But you kind of saw like LA starting to get this chip on their shoulder, this edge to them late in games, this momentum. They'll make momentum plays, and they had the home crowd a little bit behind them, and it kind of just shifted the momentum of the game. And I was really like, man, I really thought Dallas would run away with it. It was a close game, back and forth. But I agree. I mean, that Dallas is in a rough spot. They're in a lull. I still don't feel like I feel like all these teams, and I was telling you this the other day, like everybody outside of like Connecticut and Las Vegas, and I'll put New York up there just because they're the sheer talent they have on the roster. But like everybody else, Washington, LA, Dallas, Atlanta, Indiana, Chicago, it's just like there's a bunch of L's in that category right now. There's a bunch of teams that have won that are losing. Like I'm looking at the standings.
There's 4 teams with a winning record.
L. Like everyone's just like beating each other up every single night. You're not really sure what you're going to get. But I mean, Dallas, they're in a tough stretch. Who do they have coming up?
They got the Mercury, which they've already beat them twice back to back.
We'll get to that here in a
Um,
second. Good lord.
then they got the Mystics, which honestly interesting one. Then they play back to back against the Aces. So they got a tough little stretch here because the Mystics, you don't know who you're going to face, as we've talked about.
Yeah.
Not having Shakira, I think, is going to give a huge advantage to Dallas, and they're going to be coming off a win against the Mercury, in my opinion. But so I look at that and I go, okay. They also realistically they got a nice little break. They play Tuesday, and then they don't play again until Sunday. So regroup, rest up, a little bit of coaching time, a little bit of film room. LT kind of has to redirect this team and refocus them. Side note, one of my favorite coaches to listen to the huddle is LT.
Oh,
I love the way she talks to the players.
yeah.
It's not, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. It's, are you with me?
Right.
We need to do this. Are you with me? It's much more of a cohesive, a family, a unit, versus a lot of other coaches that are like, I need you to do this. I need you to do this. So while this team has struggled, I think still pretty amazing.
It's
Pretty
yeah. I mean, I'm looking at this box score. I mean, LA did a great job of getting to the free throw line. I mean, yeah, NECA literally threw the team on her back and is going to work and doing everything she can to make this team, I think Dallas has struggled with turnovers. Now they only had 13, but it's the way they're turning the ball over. Sometimes
Mhm.
you could count a quick shot, and then team's able to get it out and run, and you're not able to set up your defense. That's as good as a turnover. Which we know Dallas can do that. Not saying we don't love the quick shots that come from Dallas, but some of the actual turnovers that they're having in the open floor that are turning into points off turnovers. That's one area that I feel like is concerned. I don't think they're getting to the free throw line as much as they need to be. But I mean, I've said it before. I've said it again. Like, I was not ready to crown Dallas like a contender this season by any
Yeah.
stretch of the imagination. So I'm not surprised to see some ebbs and flows, some peaks and valleys. I think, you've got McCowan back. You've seen what Satu's been able to do this year. Aryeh has been, you know, doing what she does, and that's great. It's good to see Dangerfield coming in and getting her rhythm a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I can't quite put my finger on it. You just got to think that this is a team that just continued to stay the course and trust in the process. It probably needs to build a little bit more toughness on the defensive end and on the glass.
Yeah, no, I think the toughness is
Yeah,
what's kind of missing right now. They had that edge, that aggressiveness. Just throw it down for some people who are like, NECA, MVP talk. What are you talking about? She's averaging 20 points, 10 rebounds, basically 4 assists, 2 steals, a block a game,
yeah,
and she's shooting 52% from the field and 31% from the 3-point line. And she's inching, she's right below 90% from the free throw line.
yeah.
So like that is a ridiculous stat line to put out daily. Um and she's been doing it. And major props to her, major props to like the consistency. That's what I love about NECA, the consistency. I love that she's staying in New York, not New York, in LA. Like
For sure.
I love player movement. It's fun. It's all whatever. I also like you got to be able to love both. I love those players who are just going to stick with the team. And as much as I think that like we can, in a video game sense, talk about like, oh, if you would put NECA with this player, if you put NECA with this player, like NECA's doing NECA, and like NECA's gonna NECA, and she's just beasting right now and not getting enough attention.
Love it. I
Um,
mean, just probably one of my favorite players to watch right now. Just the energy. Um, just, I mean, she's playing like a complete superstar right now. I mean,
she doesn't look like she's her
no, no,
age. Like
no,
she looks like
this is like
younger.
this is like neck of like MVP season. Just the way she's moving and the confidence and the way she's carrying herself and just I don't know, it's fun. And you know what she does? She makes everyone around her play with a different type of energy too.
Hmm.
Because look who they're playing with. Look at the injuries that this team is dealing with. They're piecing this together. They've got multiple all the hardship stuff going on, but you've got an anchor like that and NECA, who's able to just kind of like, all right, we're going to figure this out. Like Kurt Miller said in the middle of the huddle yesterday when they try to do those very awkward in-game interviews where no one can actually hear
Yeah.
one another. But he was like, we've got a bunch of players that don't even know how to run our zone offense against the zone. Dallas was running the zone. And so, I mean, like, I like watching LA because of what, and honestly, shout out to Hamby, who's really, really starting to find her
Oh,
stride as well.
yes. Yes.
I mean, like,
Big shout
playing
out.
really well, playing really, really, really well, like starting to really bring some energy to this team. Still a lot to figure out though in LA. A lot of
Well,
inconsistencies in the backcourt and figuring out what they're doing. I mean, look, they've won a couple games in a row. Okay, it's against the Dallas Wings. Great. The last 3 wins have come against the Dallas Wings. Okay, then before that you beat Chicago, then you beat the Storm and you beat the Mercury. All right, let me see this team now go up against a team that's a little more like who do they have coming up? Okay, they've got the Sky
well,
twice. Atlanta,
the LA also like botched 3 games to Minnesota.
right.
Like that was
But
rough.
also during a bizarre stretch of even more injuries than where they're at right
Oh,
now.
totally. But
Now, again,
like LA, I think always they have injuries, but a lot like okay, Jazz Thomas isn't back. She hasn't been there really. Like Azrae and Lexi are the ones who I'm like, okay, Azrae needs to get back for this team that we can talk about. And Lexi, who's been balling out, we want to see a healthy Lexi. But like
but again,
the
this is
cool thing
not a contender.
exactly. Well, that's the thing. The cool thing though about like a team individuals who are excelling. Another player is Nafisa Collier. Got to see her live
Wow,
the other day.
wow.
That was amazing. I mean, she's putting up similar stats to NECA. 21 points a game, 8 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 2 steals, a block, just under 2.5 turnovers, shooting 48%, round up 50, 32% from the 3-point line, and 86, so just south of 90 from the free throw line. Like, she has stepped herself up. Okay, she's averaging 5 more points a game than her career average. She's basically same steals, same assists, same rebounds. But that was kind of the question. Also, it is important to keep in mind her field goal percentage has gone up and she's taking more shots. And like, she's taken that step to that next level. Another player who is having an insane season is Jewel Lloyd. Like, when I look at some of these teams, there's the individual aspects that I'm seeing, the individual stat lines and successes that I'm seeing, because those are the positives we can talk about these teams.
But
Like
also, like,
Seattle.
you have a team full of superstars with Brianna Stewart and other players around you. You're like doubling your shot attempts. So
Yep.
numbers and then the ball being worked through you, it has to be worked through Collier. It has to be worked through Jewel Lloyd. I mean, Jewel Lloyd should be taking about 35 shots a game. You know what
hmm
I'm saying? So anyway, keep going.
No, no, no. Exactly. I mean, Jewel Lloyd, 25 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal. Shooting 40% from the field is kind of wild considering how much she's shooting,
I agree.
and 40% from the 3-point line. Um, she's just playing out of her mind. And I think because she's a 3-level scorer, she's so intimidating, she's so scary, and defenses are just worried. Another player who, not to talk about individual achievements on a team that's just the whole team's achieving, is Kelsey Plum. I think early on in the season, after the surgery, trying to find her shoulder footing, um, her shot was off, but she was finding ways to impact the game. You dropped some crazy stat on me before we hit record about Kelsey Plum over the past few games. I'm just happy to see her balling like that. I mean, the longer this season goes on, the more and more I'm falling into the camp of, can anybody stop the Aces?
Yeah, I mean when Plum found her rhythm, which I never had a concern whatsoever that she would or wouldn't be able to do that. But like the last week, went up to her average about 6 points, is now averaging just over 22 points a game, making about three threes a game. That was the whole thing, right? She's in a slump, shooting slump, blah, 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 blah. Well, this is a big week for Plum. And it's so scary with this team because it's like, pick your poison. How do you guard
hmm
this team? Especially when you've got Jackie Young having an MVP season in herself. Then you've got Asia Wilson, who is right up there with MVP conversation. I mean, the weapons on this team, there is no one that even comes close. And honestly, the one that does come the closest is the New York Liberty, but they're so far from just being at that cohesion point that Las Vegas is right now that it's kind of like I don't know. I don't know. When Plum turned it on the way she's turned it, they're just hitting that next gear. But yeah, great point. Great point to bring that up. That Plum's really starting to find her rhythm, getting that confidence, and we all know what that means. When that happens, that is scary for anybody in the league.
Oh yeah. Chicago Sky 5-game losing
Six
streak,
game losing streak.
injuries, just what?
6 game losing streak.
Oh, 6 games, sorry. Just really fallen off, but that's the beauty of the season, right? They're now like teetering around that 8-9 seed a little bit later, kind of where people predicted them. They've fallen to the mean. Look, obviously injuries and other things affected that. Something I want to talk about real quickly, uh all-star voting. We don't need to get in too deep, whatever. Let's just run through the
Yeah.
names. If there's anybody that you'd swap out or keep in, Aaliyah Boston, Chelsea Gray, Brittany Griner, Jewel Lloyd, Enrique, NECA, Satu, Brandon Stewart, Asia Wilson, Jackie Young. So we get 3 from Vegas. I don't think that's that outlandish considering the stats that Chelsea Gray and Jackie Young are putting down. My beef is with Aaliyah Boston and Enrique Gumbwale. I think both of them are all stars. You can maybe argue that Enrique isn't, and you would swap her for a different guard. Okay, make that argument. Fine. Aaliyah Boston, no doubt in my mind, she's an all star. No doubt in my
No
mind.
doubt in anyone's mind, really. I mean,
She is, yeah. The only reason I'm stressing this is because people love to, throw shade at me and give me all this whatever about, oh, South Carolina. I just want to talk about like Aaliyah Boston's stats for a second. Okay. She's averaging 15.6 in 30 minutes of play. She's getting 8 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, a block and a half. She's shooting 65%, 50 from three. Honestly, I don't know how many threes she's taken. I'm looking at her last 5 games and she hasn't made a three. And 77 from the free throw line. Though, like, she's putting up, there's no question in my mind, she's putting up
Oh,
all-star
have a
stats.
phenomenal year for a rookie. It's unbelievable. It's awesome to watch. Love it.
For a vet, it's a great year. For a rookie, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
She's not a starter. I'm sorry. Like, I understand fan voting matters. Like, by the skill, she is not a starter. Like, you look at some of these other players. How is Alyssa Thomas not a starter? How is Aaliyah Boston a starter over Alyssa Thomas? That's just mind-blowing to me. Like, I know some people will push back and say, well, that's not the person you should pop out for it, right? Realistically, let's just run down this for anybody who's pushing anything. Keep in mind that Alyssa Thomas has dropped, what, now 2 triple
Two
doubles in
triple
the
doubles.
season?
2 triple doubles in this week.
Okay, this week. So Boston's 15, 8, and 2, right? Alyssa Thomas is 15, 11, and 8. She's averaging 15 points, 11 points, and 15 points, 11 rebounds. She's almost averaging a triple double.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. And if you want to say Brittany Griner, cool, fine. I think Brittany and Aaliyah have slightly more comparable stats, but I think Fee has better stats than Aaliyah Boston. So I think, like, you're looking through this and you start to question, not to question. I understand fan voting matters. I just think that, like, we should talk about that a little bit. And then Enrique, like, I don't know how Enrique got it. There's a few people I'd swap Enrique out for. Honestly, for me, Kalia Copper, Marina Mabry,
Yeah.
like, granted, I understand some people are going to push back against that. But I just think it's a really interesting, like, Sabrina, I guess you can make that argument. Actually, the player who was in my mind that I had in there that wasn't in there instead of Enrique was Alicia Gray. Like, Alicia Gray has been balling. She should be a top player. But again, I think for me, I don't care about fan ranking. Like, I get that's what fans do. And I understand that that's going to kind of, like, heck, even Aaliyah Boston was like fan ranking number 4 to be a starter, right?
Well,
Then you look at media and player ranking and she's not a starter. And that's where
I know,
my
and I
argument.
sat here and I was looking at like who I would have swapped out, what I would have done, and trying to understand it. And then I had to step back and realize like it's all star.
Yeah.
This is not like end of season awards. This is an all-star game, and the fan rankings and the fan vote does have a huge weight in that. And so players maybe like an Alyssa Thomas that doesn't have the massive fan engagement following that can make a difference. It's just really interesting. I definitely feel I had Griner, I had Alyssa Thomas. And yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of the things that you said. I think you could go back and forth. To me, and I don't mean this to discredit All Star by any stretch, but to me, I don't get too worked up in it. Although I did
Mm-hmm.
say that yesterday, and then 90 minutes later, I was still worked up about something. But like, for the most part, I don't put a ton of like my energy and like countless effort into like analyzing All Star. I think it's a great recognition. I think for the most part, all the names in there are worthy.
Yeah.
Starters, okay, we could talk about that probably for.
I mean, Diana Taurasi, honestly,
Okay,
if I look at this list, if there's one player on this list who I'm like, you should not be
talk
an all-star
about being like grandfathered in, man.
she's the only person. It's funny because, like, she's such the old guard, but, like, fan ranking 7th, media ranking 10th. How did she get 10th in media ranking? Player ranking 14th. Even I think that's high. But
What's
the best part,
even averaging this year? Let's look that.
I don't even want to
Look.
know. Sabrina was 19th in player ranking, and I found that hilarious. There's only 3 players.
Well, she sure as
Who
hell
were
threw that team on her back yesterday and took them to the promised
That's
land on
fair. Well, because that news came out right before the game. So,
Right.
Sabrina Taurasi and Dewana Bonner. Bonner player ranking 10th, fan ranking 11th, media ranking 10th. Just the only ones. I mean, I guess Kelsey Mitchell got a 10 also. Alyssa Thomas, I mean, fan ranking got a 10. Fine, whatever. But yeah, that's my thought. No, I agree with you. Also, like, who at the end of the day, like, we're nitpicking on starters versus not. Like, I think there is something to be said that being an all-star matters because that's part of your resume when you retire. being a starter doesn't matter in my mind, at least.
For the record, Tarazi's played in 9 games, averaging 15 points a game, 5.5 assists, shooting 36% from the floor, 25% from the 3-point line, and averaging close to 4 turnovers a game.
Yeah, I mean, at least she's putting up
I
15
will
points.
say I did not have Tarazi in mind, but
I did not either. I
still
also
up
will
in the
say that I did not.
conversations, just not getting it done this year, which maybe is a great segue to the sister of what is the Phoenix Mercury right now. Vanessa
Oh, yeah.
Nygaard out as of yesterday, mid-season.
Shocked, Rachel?
What?
Shocked?
No. What were your thoughts?
Anybody
I don't
shocked?
think
Is
anybody
anybody?
was.
If anybody's shocked, shoot us a DM.
Everybody was just talking about it. They're like, oh, yeah, it happened. Oh, it happened. It's interesting, though. You know, we don't see this a whole lot in the WNBA.
The mid-season fire. Yeah. Well, I think. Look, my thought is this: one, Nygaard was the wrong hire from the beginning. She was a hire that was supposed to just kind of let like there was this idea that and I'm maybe making this up. But like there's this idea that like when Sandy wasn't the thing making this team work, and when they moved on from her, like, oh, we still have basically the same core. We just are putting in a coach. And in my mind, the hire was a coach who was going to let Taurasi do Taurasi things, and they thought that would work. It did not work. I think it was a dumb idea. And now Sandy's laughing with the New York Liberty looking good. But all that said, all I'm going to say is if all these people who are sitting here and going, oh, the Mercury are tanking, you don't fire a crappy coach mid-season if you're trying to lose.
No, but I think we got to get deeper than this. I think it's deeper than Nygaard. I think it's much. I mean, first off, who could have ever imagined? Of course, there's like a frickin' blower going by as I'm trying to talk right now.
All good.
But who could have ever imagined that the circumstances would have been what they were last year with Brittany Griner being detained in Russia? You know, like clearly that was a hire that we were very surprised by when this team went to the finals and then was let go. That was a longevity fire. We need a breath of fresh air. But like you can't do a breath of fresh air when you've still got the old guard in control of the entire organization. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm not trying to say it's time for Diana Taurasi to go. I mean, we could have that conversation if we really want to. I know some people on social media do, but if you're Diana Taurasi, you play as long as you want to play. You've earned that right. However, you know, I don't think it's fair to just sit here and blame everything on Nygaard. And everything that happened last year was unbelievable with Griner. True. The Skylar Diggins drama and whatever happened, I don't think, for whatever reason, I don't know the inner workings of what happened in the locker room, but there was obviously a lot of players, a lot of pieces to this puzzle that Nygaard never really earned their respect. You know, and then that carries over into this year. This team, if Skylar Diggins Smith is playing on this team, this looks very different. Now, she's pregnant. Mm-hmm. She's not playing. Let's not forget that before she was pregnant, she was not wanting to play. Yeah. So to be determined whether she's with this organization. But I think that it's bigger than Nygaard. I do think it was the right move. I think that the circumstances that she had to walk into were – how do you handle that? Nobody in the world would handle that scenario. My question is the bigger picture of this organization as a whole and the direction of it moving forward. You know, okay, is this going to be a Taurasi hire that's going to allow her to do what she wants to do at 43 years old? Or what are we doing here? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Do you bring a hire in to try and retain a player like Skylar Diggins Smith, who took this team to the playoffs last year single-handedly? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm questioning the GM, but I kind of.
Oh, you have no. I don't think that. Look, you fire. You don't bring back a coach who brought them to the finals, right? A coach who has been established. You bring in a coach who's unestablished, and it fails. Like right. I would be doing the same thing to Greg or any other team that is having those struggles. I think it's a fair question to have.
I do think, though. I mean. This season, I mean, granted, you had Taurasi and Griner out with some injuries. Now, then you're playing with nothing at that point. You're going out there trying to be competitive with Sophie Cunningham as your star. Which that again, nothing against any of those players, but come on now. Now it's kind of like, okay, Nikki Blue taking over the helm for the rest of the season. I think the change within itself maybe breathes enough, just shifting enough that who knows? Maybe this team can kind of piece together some wins. I don't think it's an intentional tank. I don't think if you're just like, oh, we're tanking, you make this move. If that's the case, just let Nygaard finish out the season.
Yeah.
Now, are there pros to being bad at this point? Subconsciously in the back of your mind, if you're a GM, yeah, for sure. But like, it's just a bad product right now, unfortunately.
Yeah. What you said. Okay. My favorite part, because I'm beating
What else
you.
are we
Seven.
missing? Hold on, no. I want to make sure. Okay, we got the sweeps. We got Chicago, triple double. Yeah, we covered everything. Okay, we're good.
We covered it all. We covered
We
it all.
covered it all.
Rachel's just trying to distract me from. Rachel is 15 and 14 in Pick'em. I'm 17 and 12. All
That's
right, let's run
how
down
old
the
I am
games.
from this season. I'm just, I don't.
If you could see Rachel right now, her hair is in a twist. Okay. Pick 'em for this week. We got Fever at Aces. We're both picking Aces, right?
Hold on, where are we at? What if the Fever win tonight? No, I'm going Aces for sure.
Yeah. Liberty at Sun.
I don't know. I'm gonna mix it up. I'm gonna say Liberty.
Okay, I went Sun. 1 second.
Pickle disagrees.
Storm
He's
at Lynx.
What do you say? Storm at Lynx.
Yes.
Wow.
That's the toughest one. I've been waiting for them to play because I think but a lot of people kind of have them just above the Mercury, but like
I mean, they're both 4-9.
yeah,
I don't
it's an
know.
even matchup.
You go Minnesota. I'll go Seattle.
Okay. Love it.
Just
I was already doing that, you know that. When in doubt, Wings at Mercury.
Okay, so do you take the approach of like, okay, Phoenix fired their coach, now we're ready to go, we're gonna get a win, or is Dallas just gonna finally get it together? I think Dallas has too much talent on their team. I don't know. That would be a brutal blow if Dallas ends up losing
That would be huge
6 of
if
their
they lose
last
that.
7 games and then they lose this one to Phoenix. I don't think Dallas drops this one.
Agreed. Sparks at Sky.
Sparks should win that game.
Sparks should win that game. I'll be nice. I'll be nice, Rachel. I think the Sparks win, but because the Sky are in a 6-game losing streak, I'll do Sky. That doesn't make any sense, but I did it. Dream at Mystics. Who you got?
Man, we didn't really talk about Atlanta today. Like they hit like a really high point last week,
Yeah, and then they kind of
and then
plateaued
it's
back
kind
down.
of like, that's a good matchup though. I could see Atlanta going in there and winning that game. But you know what?
Especially if Shakira's out. We don't
I
know.
agree. I'm gonna go Atlanta.
Okay, we're both going Atlanta on that one. Liberty Aces.
Mm, that's awesome. Aces.
You know. Yeah, exactly. Lynx at Storm. Second game. This game in Seattle.
I'm gonna go Seattle again. I'm crazy.
I'm going Seattle on this one too,
They're gonna-
because I was like, I don't think like in my mind when two teams play each other, it's hard to it's obviously it's easier to get the double win over the triple win, but like that double win is really really hard. And then the last one, Fever at Mercury.
Mercury are gonna win that one. I'm gonna
Okay,
give them
I
a
went
win. They're
Fever.
gonna get a win.
Yeah, we can hope. Rachel, who's your goat?
I have no idea.